Liverpool win their 20th title. The Chicago Fire gave up a touchdown, and get to know your district, New Mexico. That and more here on Morning Kick Around. Hello and welcome to the show. This is Morning Kick Around, where we cover the world's favorite game from the world's favorite country, coming to you live each Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'm Robert Kerr. He's Jason Davis. Thank you so much for joining us here on Monday of the Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We are on the lesser of the three. Hope you're doing all right on Monday. I'm feeling pretty good. Get it over the line. Tears of my ancestors crawled down my face this weekend. How are you doing, Mr. Davis?
I'm okay. I'm trying to be happy for you, Rob. I'm trying to get myself to that place. And I'm not a hater by any means of Liverpool Football Club, but I'm not going to run around and be thrilled at the same time. So I'm trying to find that equilibrium between being happy for you and hating. And that's a really tough place to be.
I was expecting a full guard of honor when we opened up the stream this morning, but I guess you're just like putting a lot of planning into that, and we'll await the the big celebration for me.
It might take me weeks, maybe months even, to figure out how to properly celebrate. I wouldn't wait around, and I wouldn't make significant plans for a date. I would just say possibly one day, maybe we'll do something special for you.
We've got a fun show lined up here on Monday, even though it is the day that it is for everybody out there. We've got Ron Patel from New Mexico United giving us the lowdown on their great start to the year down there. We're going to talk about adopting a foreign team. Should Americans adopt foreign teams? And then get into the MLS weekend that was. It was a little crazy out there, especially for a couple former national teamers. But first, have you subscribed yet? Our subscriber numbers are doing well and climbing each and every day. And if you are watching this now and you haven't hit the button, doesn't cost you a thing, hit the button and subscribe now. But if you want to take it a step further and support with a couple dollars here and there, we have memberships, Jason. Join the MK Ultras, hit that subscribe button, then hit the memberships. Was it $3.99? And you get access to priority commenting, stickers, emojis, early access to videos, Discord, which has started to light up. There's been a request. Was it Father Time? You've been asked to join the Discord. People are wanting to know what is the root of Father Time's grouchiness. So we shall see.
Let's find out.
You can follow along on social media at MKickaround on X, Instagram, and the Blue Sky. Write us a note, morningkickaround@gmail.com. You can also support on coffee.com/morningkickaround. You can go one-time donation or anything you'd like really over there and have access to content there too. We're also a podcast. Search Morning Kick Around on your favorite audio platform for, podcast to go version of Morning Kick Around. Maybe a little house cleaning on the scheduling of the show. We want to touch on that at all?
House cleaning on the scheduling. Tell me, what am I missing? What we're talking about this week and next week and what's coming?
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to fill people in, I'm going on vacation. Rob's going to try to hold down the fort. We got some stuff in the can. That's broadcasting speak, inside baseball. You're getting the inside. We got some things ready to go for you. I think we got a plan, something of a plan. So hopefully, be on the lookout. It might not be the same show you're used to for a little while, but I'm only gone for a week.
Yeah, we've got some stuff lined up. He's going away for fun. I'm going away for work, but we got you guys locked in. Don't worry about that. Plenty of Morning Kick Around, despite a little bit of a change this week. But let's have fun today. Let's kick off our long balls here on Monday's Morning Kick Around. Long ball number 1 here on Morning Kick Around for Monday, April 28th. It was all across our televisions, or at least mine yesterday. Liverpool Football Club winning the Premier League, winning their 20th first division title over there across the pond, equaling that of Manchester United. And this very, I don't know if cleansing or there's like a weight that's been on my shoulders since, was it 2012? When Alex Ferguson did quote unquote knock Liverpool off their perch, won
Right.
13 in 20 years. Liverpool had a seemingly insurmountable lead after their run in the 80s. Manchester United caught all the way up and surpassed them, but now Manchester United, Liverpool, the two most accomplished teams in England, equal at 20.
Can I be that guy though? I mean,
yeah, definitely. You are that guy, right?
The Premier League is different than the first division, is it not?
You're doing that. I thought you were going to say, I don't care, I'm American, but you're going to go with actually the Premier League started in 1992. I didn't think you were going that way. That's like the worst. Well, actually, we could have done.
Is it? It's the worst one. It's convenient for Liverpool fans to treat the first division as the same as the Premier League for the purposes of tying Manchester United for the number of titles between those two divisions, especially since Manchester United has such a gargantuan lead in the Premier League era over Liverpool. But I'll give it to you. I'm not really going to be that pedantic about it, Rob.
I'm glad. I appreciate that.
I don't know that I care that much. I mean, this is an American soccer show. I mean, we spent our early days, bringing some European football into our conversations. And I pay attention a lot to European football because of my job and because I like it. But I also an American first. And I think we will have to kind of unpack the relationship that Americans who are not also English, because you are also English, have with the Premier League and clubs over there and all those things. Because it took me a long time to finally land on a Premier League club that I was going to support, that I care about going into every weekend. And I'm pretty sure my club will certainly never match Liverpool nor Manchester United for the number of titles, but probably never win a title is probably where I'm at, Rob. I mean, that's the bargain I've made, I guess.
I don't know. Maybe we don't have a reciprocal relationship because I will provide a guard of honor to you when the Cottagers win the Premier League.
Yeah, you're also going to give me the deed to your house when it happens, right? Because that's totally a thing that could possibly happen is Fulham winning a title and you having to do anything to celebrate said title. Come on.
Hey,
I know Leicester won a title. It's real as time passes, that Leicester Premier League title gets weirder and weirder, does it not? Like it just feels stranger and stranger in terms of its context. Like
and I feel like people undervalued. So the owner, so seeing where Leicester are now compared to where they were then, I think that the dramatic undoing of the owner, that I think it happened in like 2019 or so, when the owner of Leicester City unfortunately had a helicopter crash and passed away. I really think that aura, I think his tenure there just made that a very special situation for that club. And it seemed like everyone around or associated with that Leicester club at that time had a glow to them for what the ownership was doing. And since his passing, the owner of Leicester City, they've definitely returned to being just a normal club again, it would seem.
I mean, yeah, normal club, a yo-yo club, back to kind of who they were. And again, there were lots of factors there. And there is a debate. I don't want to belabor this Liverpool title. I think we should move on quickly. We're going to come back to Liverpool anyway, and you'll get a chance to talk about your love of that club. But, there is that question of, okay, how strong was the league when Leicester won? And that's come into this Liverpool equation a little bit. How strong is the league? Is this really that impressive from Liverpool? Now, that is diminishing a title, and I don't like doing that in any form. And I've actually seen the counterpoint made today. I haven't read the article, but I did see a counterpoint that said, actually, this is a very strong Premier League, especially if you go deeper down the table. I mean, it's not just about whether City were challenging Liverpool or Arsenal was good enough to really be in the fight down to the wire, because they clearly weren't. It's also that you've got Bournemouth where they are, and Villa where they are, and Fulham where they are, and Aston Villa where they are, and you keep going down the table, and you're saying, oh, those are pretty good clubs. And in order to get to the point total that Liverpool has, you have to be good. You have to be almost great, because it's not as easy to maybe beat club 14 or 15 or 16 as it was a couple years ago.
I don't think there was really, other than this Spurs game and maybe one other earlier in the year, there really wasn't any easy games for Liverpool. It wasn't really many blowouts or anything. There was a very select few big wins.
I don't think it, and in retrospect, it doesn't make Liverpool look too bad that they lose to Nottingham Forest and Fulham in the same season. Whereas a champion losing those games 5, 6, 7 years ago, you would say, oh, well, maybe they weren't that good and their other teams were just not good enough. But I do think this Liverpool team was very, very good.
Yeah, they were really, really good. And it shouldn't be lost to the ether, though, that, I mean, Liverpool were the best year, game in, game out. But if you think about the margins, even though they won with 4 games to go, the margins were thin. There were some games where Allison Becker made a one-on-one save that he made a half a dozen saves this year that didn't seem like any other goalie in the world would make. The one-on-ones on breakaways, like Liverpool defense gave up some chances and he kept them in the game. They came back in a couple games. And then some of the, maybe misfortune of Arsenal getting some red cards that were debatable here and there, shaved a couple points. So it looks like I keep on hearing the word winning at a canter. And that's maybe doing them a little bit unjust disservice, saying that it was easy when, there was a plenty of 1-goal wins and plenty of comeback wins in this. It wasn't a walk in the park by any means.
Well, look, again, I don't know that, it becomes a debate, and sure, Liverpool, because they now have 20 titles and because they want to put themselves on that pedestal, and you're one of those fans who will want to have this conversation, Rob, but I don't know that it matters all that much whether you were dominant the way that City was dominant a couple seasons ago. And, you don't have to have 95 points in the Premier League to be a very, very good team and to be a great team in the history of the competition. Because if you are racking up that many points, maybe you are very good, but maybe the rest of the league is not nearly up to par. Whereas for Liverpool, again, you're pointing out that there were difficult games and scraping together points when maybe you aren't at your best is definitely part of the story for any club like this. And again, doing it with a first-year manager, which has happened on a number of times in the Premier League, but doing it with a first-year manager is definitely notable.
Yeah, that puts Arne Slot on the Mount Rushmore of managers coming in and winning the first time. And we'll talk a little bit more about my personal connection and just Americans' connection to wins like this and clubs overseas later on in the show. But moving along, long ball number 2, Chicago Fire. They were looking like they were edging towards respectability here in the 2025 season, and that took a hit over the weekend. Chicago Fire losing by a football scoreline, 7-2 to Nashville. Gregg Berhalter losing to former assistant BJ Callahan, leading Nashville, and which led the former United States men's national team manager to have to formally apologize to everyone involved, to the ownership, to the fans, even to those who spent time watching it on television.
Let's hear that.
First thing is apologizing to the fans that took the time out of their day to watch that game. Some of them perhaps traveled to the game. Apology to the owner for putting up a performance like this, that doesn't represent who we are. And it was a very, very poor performance. And we deserve to lose the way we did. Congratulations to Nashville for playing an outstanding game. But, the way I'm looking at this is we're going to learn a lot about ourselves this week. And part of it is going to be processing through the game, not just flushing it away, taking accountability for it as coaches, as players, and plotting how we move forward. But today was an absolute disaster and a very, very poor performance.
So the Chicago Fire losing 7-2 on the weekend. Greg having to apologize to everyone involved in this match.
Everyone. Did he apologize to the hot dog guy at Soldier Field? Because that guy's probably upset. That guy's probably hot.
I think it was in Nashville, though.
That comes off as a little trite. I mean, I think this is just how Gregg Berhalter is. And we get into a place of kind of policing body language and things like that, which I'm not a huge fan of.
Are you saying it was slightly hostage crisis video? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I mean, but in that it didn't. I think if I was a Fire fan, I'm going to put myself in the shoes of a Fire fan. If I'm a Fire fan, I want a little bit more fire. I want a little bit more energy from Gregg. I want Gregg to be distraught, not just apologetic, right? That's the apology that my 16-year-old kid gives me when he's talked back and I'm not happy with him. Does he really mean it? I can't tell. Do I kind of have to take it? I guess that's the best I'm going to get, but it's not what I want. I want him to say, I'm so sorry. Like, I want him to say, more than just the words, right? It's an energy question. 7 is okay. There's a line in this game that we love so much. If you lose, I mean, I suppose you can win a game 8-7. If you have 7 goals, who cares? You scored 8. Yeah. But there's a line that where if you lose, it goes from just like, oh, we got beat and we got beat pretty bad too. Now it's embarrassing. Like it's beyond, it's across this line that makes it where you can't just forget that game. Not easily anyway. That you're going to have to figure it requires a bigger response. And certainly when you are that bad, it indicates potentially massive problems with who you are. Now, I guess everybody's good for a one-off bad performance. But if you give up 4, oh man, that stinks. Wow, we got some defensive. You give up 5, ooh, maybe somebody's losing their job in the back line or a goalkeeper or midfield. You give up 6, and we're talking about maybe wholesale changes to the way that you play defensive. We give up 7, fire everybody, start from scratch, hire bring in a USL players because you've embarrassed yourself to the point of you might as well. You bring in the kids, give the job to an 18-year-old fresh off the reserve team. Because what is that? That's not how professional football clubs are supposed to play. Professional soccer teams in Major League Soccer. You where's the pride, right? This is where we have now a question of pride. Is there enough of that when it comes to the Chicago Fire? If Gregg Berhalter was supposed to be the guy to remake the Fire back into a respectable team, as you might have labeled them prior to this game, Rob, if that's what's happened, if 7 is what, and again, it also makes it worse that he's giving them up to his former U.S. men's national team assistant, and there will certainly be a lot of people out there in U.S. men's national team fan land who will say, well, we told you, Gregg stunk, and BJ was a better option. Remember, BJ did the thing in the
Gold Cup or
Nations League. No, Nations League. Whereas, I mean, look at where we are now. I mean, I don't know that you're really pointing to either one of those guys, and I don't know. This is not good, right? This is not good.
So this game was 5-0 at halftime, and I got to
45 minutes, 5 goals. That's ridiculous.
It's many goals. I have a little bit of sympathy. I thought that the 2 penalties that went against them were on the softer side.
Okay, soft, certainly. I think the second one in particular was extremely soft. However, how many times did all Nashville need to do is drop a ball over the top and the Fire get burned again and burned again and burned again? No, sorry, no pun intended. No pun intended. But they could not handle simple balls over the top to Sam Surridge or whoever. And that we're not talking about Nashville stringing together 25 passes and picking apart a defensive team that actually is doing most of their job. We're talking about simple balls over the top, beating the Fire time and time again.
Yeah, I hate to speak in cliches, but on those goals, the Chicago Fire defenders honestly behaved like traffic cones. I mean, they provided no resistance, didn't even get in the way. You know, like at very least, like when we're coaching youth soccer, at the very least, get in the way. If you're not, like the best defender, at least like push him wide, get in his way, slow him down, do something. And there wasn't really a whole lot of that. And the feeling within the team, one of the Fire players scored a consolation goal, an absolute banger of a free kick, and wasn't even able to celebrate. It reminded me of Zlatan Ibrahimovic when he scored that roundhouse goal for the LA Galaxy, and it was like his 400th ever career goal. Should be this like epic moment, but they were losing like 4-5-0, and he was just pissed. And that's what it looked like. It was Zinkernagel. If you haven't seen it, rocket right footer, beautiful goal. I think he just like yelled at his team or something. It was very demonstrative rather than celebratory, but 7-2. So we've seen a couple of results in MLS and overseas where a big result can, that's a flashpoint memory, a light bulb memory. Right. No one is going to forget that. And that's either going to spur them on to a reaction for better or for worse. What will the Fire do? We'll see.
Nothing. They're going to do nothing. They're not going to do anything.
You think they're going to bounce back and be better, or just like
slow? I thought you meant will they make
no. I meant as far as performance. Like, will this be galvanizing in a positive or a negative way?
Well, I will say that this being Major League Soccer and parity being a part of the story, it's really hard to know if the Fire are truly bad or if this is just a one-off. They host Orlando City on Saturday. Orlando City right now, 7th place, 16 points. They haven't lost in a while, but they did beat Atlanta United this weekend, who is maybe they're in line for a decision coming up soon.
Is Ronnie Dyla not reacting quick enough?
It should be a question. I mean, I want a league where head coaches, the people in charge, are held accountable when you're not meeting the standard. And maybe if this was another league, maybe promotion and relegation is part of the conversation. Obviously, that is identified as a motivator of decisions when it comes to other leagues, where if you are drifting down the table and you're threatened by a drop, you kind of have to make a choice. In this case, the Fire are 2 spots off the playoffs, Rob. Just two points off of New York City for ninth place, and they can make it in the playoffs. And obviously for Chicago, who hasn't been in the playoffs in a long time, that would measure some sort of success. But obviously that's not good enough, and it shouldn't be in Chicago. And everybody talks about Joe Mansueto as a guy who really wants to win. He puts in money into his team. He made all these tough decisions about trying to make the Fire matter more in Chicago. Man, I don't know. If you just keep getting it wrong and getting it wrong and getting it wrong, and he's been the owner for how long has Joe Mansueto owned the Fire? 5 or 6 years?
Yeah, we're in that 5 to 8 year range here. And yeah, he's poured a lot of money in it. He definitely cares more and has been more of a positive presence than previous ownership, but the results have not followed. Long ball number 3 here on Monday on Morning Kick Round. Major League Soccer. We are 10 weeks into the season, believe it or not. So it's maybe a little bit time to make a little bit of some more firm conclusions about what these teams are. Who's good, who's not. Believe it or not, after 10 games, there are multiple teams without a single win, Jason.
Multiple teams without a single win in Major League Soccer.
After 10 games.
Yeah, and these are obviously the teams where you're wondering if there needs to be a change. I mean, we've seen Sporting Kansas City make a change, right? They're not going to do it again. I don't know if they have a permanent head coach search on. They probably have one ongoing. I don't know if they have one lined up. Kerry Zavagnin in charge. And obviously they have improved slightly since Peter Ramiz was dismissed. The Galaxy lose again, and in pretty dispiriting fashion against Portland. The kind of goals that they gave up. I don't know about the penalty in that game either, although it ended up not being the winning goal, which I think is at least some it's not comfort for the Galaxy fans, but I think if you're watching that, you really don't want the Galaxy to be losing again on a questionable penalty. But there was that. They give up 4 goals at home to Portland, and they lose yet again. And then you got CF Montreal as well, and they've already made their managerial changes as well, right? Laurent Courtois got fired. So what are they going to do except just try to figure it out? I think some of the bigger stories are teams that actually have won games but are well underperforming their expectations. Atlanta United, we mentioned them again. They lose to Orlando City 3-0. I mean, were they even competitive in that game? I mean, it was only 1-0 at halftime, but they give up 2 in the second half. They're unable to find any goals of their own. 0.65 in terms of expected goals on the day for Atlanta. Something is wrong with Atlanta United. I work with a guy on the radio, my producer, who suggests that Ronnie Dyler was never that good in the first place. Ooh. And that the talent that he had in New York City was what allowed him to win a title. And you have to go back and look at that and sort of their path to the championship. It was that sort of the legitimate way to go about it. I think that's the one that they won when the Union all got COVID and weren't able to play, and they beat the Union in the Eastern Conference Final, if I'm remembering my MLS history. So Ronnie Dyler, maybe not that good to begin with. Obviously, it's not going well in Atlanta. You have to question that. How long does
I'm curious if that's a coaching or a personnel issue. When I watch Atlanta, I just feel like there's imbalance. There's something missing, whether that's a setup thing or a player personnel thing. I haven't quite figured out yet.
But it's strange because they have the best player personnel man maybe in league history in Garth Lagerwey as their president. Now they put together the dream team that had been at the Seattle Sounders, that had helped the Sounders become the marquee team of Major League Soccer, right? And so it all looked like it was going to go well. They have good leadership, right? They came out of the initial stage of success. They win that MLS Cup title under Tata Martino. They had the South American stars. Obviously, in Major League Soccer, it's really hard to keep that together, right? And they had to sell Miguel Almiron, for example, because when Newcastle comes in with that offer, you say yes. So navigating that change, they have obviously tripped over themselves a number of times. Frank de Boer, and I'm missing Gabriel Heinze. Like they screwed up so many times that now they're trying to get it back together. They hired the right guy in Garth Lagerwey, but clearly it's not as simple as hiring Garth Lagerwey. Otherwise, they would have won more games by now. So I don't know.
Going to the chat, moving up the table a little bit. San Diego party seems to be over. Nate, one of the MK Ultra members, chiming in here about Major League Soccer. Yeah, San Diego lose 3-1 to Real Salt Lake, but I wanted to bring this up. Diego Luna stepping up into that role of being, a carrier of his team, getting goals and assists, very frequently getting 2 goals against San Diego FC. Do you think that they just ran into a very good Real Salt Lake team, or, to Nate's point, is, a little bit of that heat fading?
Well, I think Real Salt Lake is pretty inconsistent. I mean, they're not a team that goes out there and puts together great performances every week. I think Diego Luna is a very fun player who's rounding into the kind of American 10 that we haven't had in this league in a very long time. Also, I think he was probably motivated by the fact that the league rescinded the red card that he shouldn't have gotten last week. So, you get a reprieve, you show up, you play well. I don't know if the bloom is off the rose in San Diego exactly. It feels too early for that. But again, this league does that, right? You get teams that kind of jump up, do this thing for a little while, and everybody's like, oh, look how good they are. And it's all kind of smoke and mirrors, right? The league is just so unpredictable that you can't really put a stamp on anybody as being good or not. I asked Jamie Watson, who does MLS broadcasting, on Friday about this. Like, do we know who's good yet? Now, he said, yeah, we do. We know who's good in the East. We know Columbus is good. We know Inter Miami is good. I don't know. Do we know Inter Miami is good? Did you see what happened to them at home against FC Dallas? I mean, again, maybe that's a one-off, but it's really hard to pin it down. Like, oh, this team is good. Is Philadelphia really, are they a good team? Because they started really strong under new management with a new identity, but that could be a bunch of enthusiasm that might fade as you hit the difficult part of the season.
I have a feeling, obviously, we're talking about the unpredictability of it, but I feel like over time, Philadelphia will kind of come to the middle, some good games, some bad games. But a team that we kind of haven't touched on that much that, is doing very, very well is Cincinnati. They are currently, obviously, there's a couple game differences. They've played a couple games more than a couple other competitors, but Cincinnati currently leading the Supporters Shield race, which I don't know. They've added some big name people with Denke getting on the goals. He is as advertised, and a couple other players that added. Definitely, they seem to have done the right things in the offseason and have pushed the right buttons to get themselves in a good place. But Inter Miami, going back to your point there, of the teams that we believe are good, I've said on the show last week, they feel of the good teams that they're more likely or more susceptible to a steep drop off. You lose a Messi, you lose a Suarez, maybe one of the other role players, fades in form, and they could drop. I feel like,
that is the thing, right? That the difference between being good and being mediocre, or even being good and being bad, is very thin in Major League Soccer, and that's because of the level of the top players, right? Your DP level players, and the gap between them and lots of other guys. But it's also a depth issue in general, right? It goes beyond sort of just, if you lose a DP, you might not be as good. It's more like, if you lose your left back, do you have even a half decent left back to step in for him? And that can be a hole that can be opened up in your lineup that then becomes a problem down the line. I will say that you mentioned Kevin Denke scoring twice. He scored twice for Cincinnati on the weekend, right?
Yeah.
A guy that they went out and spent money on, and that bicycle kick goal, that overhead goal, that was a peach of a goal. That's if you get a bicycle kick goal, you want it to look like that. You don't want it to be one of those shin numbers that kind of look like maybe there was full contact with the ball. That was an athletic, incredible goal. And the guy is ripped. Like the guy's cut up. He's got Adama Traore, smaller than Adama Traore, but he's got Traore energy out there.
Yeah, and it sounds like another cliche, but that's worth the price of admission. I mean, that's literally what the team spent money on. Everyone's going to remember that goal for a very long time. I mean, those again, a light bulb memory when you see the player that a lot of people were probably there to see doing something many of them probably haven't seen perform before. That is why you paid the price of admission. That's why you brought the player in for the first place, not only to help your results over a long period of time, but to provide that excitement. And Denke, definitely an agent of excitement there. Do we got time to move on to one, or should we? Is there any other MLS action from the weekend? We barely touched on it, but just worth noting before we move on to our next segment that Inter Miami fell to FC Dallas.
Yeah, I mentioned that. I mentioned that's in passing there. Obviously, it's not it's not just the loss. It's sort of the way that it happened, right? And as you said, the when you are dealing with and the way that Miami has chosen to go into this part of their existence with Jorge Mas writing clock and checks is that we're going to get the Messi and friends band together, and then that's going to be the way that we win things. And they won a supporter shield last year. Came up short in the playoff, won a supporter shield last year, League Cup, whatever you think about that. But they obviously, with the CONCACAF Champions Cup and now with that game coming up this week where they have to turn over a 2-goal deficit against Vancouver, you're not starting your big guns, right? Those guys are not available, right? No Suarez, no Messi, no Busquets in the lineup, right? No Jordi Alba in the lineup. So is the drop off that significant? But again, they scored 3 times before they scored 3 times amidst I think Dallas scored in first in the 8th minute from Shaq Moore, but then Miami took the commanding lead, and you thought, oh, maybe they're going to do this without the big guns. Nope.
All right, we're going to move right along. If you haven't subscribed already, hit that button, join the MK Ultras. We've crashed through 2,000, going towards 2,500, and you will be the next one. And then tell your friends to be the next. After that, we also have memberships. Click that button, $3.99 a month, and you get early access to videos, priority commenting, and a bunch of other benefits, including a Discord server, which has started getting rolling. And it's going to be a lot of fun. Follow us along on social media at MKickaround on, or was it X, Instagram, Blue Sky. Write us an email, morningkickaround@gmail.com. Support us on coffee.com/morningkickaround and search for us on your favorite podcast platform, Morning Kickaround there. I see our guest is in the house and ready. So we're going to move right along with Get to Know Your District, New Mexico with Ron Patel here on Morning Kickaround. Get to know your district here on Morning Kickaround, identifying and digging into all the various cities and soccer districts across this amazing country of ours. And I'm very pleased to be welcomed by the president of New Mexico United, Ron Patel, to tell us more about the soccer district that is Albuquerque and New Mexico. Welcome to Morning Kickaround, sir.
Good morning. And just to rub it in, Jason, a little more.
You too, Ron.
Very good.
Here I was, Ron. I'm going to show you this scarf, this Albuquerque Soul scarf.
I remember
you gave me years ago. I still have it, still here in the studio, and now you're going to make me feel bad about Liverpool winning a title. Let's see how it works. But I'm glad you're here.
I was born a mile from Anfield, so it's in my blood. My first time at Anfield was in 1986, where my mom took me. So it was a great day yesterday, wasn't it, Rob?
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I like this because now, we're going to get into a question of Americans and their relationship with foreign clubs later in the show after we talk to Ron. But now we have Ron's story, born a mile from Anfield. That makes it pretty hard to say he shouldn't be a Liverpool fan. So but you are in American soccer these days, Ron. And again, from the days of the Albuquerque Soul, now with New Mexico United, one of the success stories of recent USL championship vintage. I know we've got a little bit of video off some stuff you guys have created around the team, but tell us where this is right now for Albuquerque, for New Mexico United, and the growth of this team.
Velocity, I think, is a good word. I mean, we've been going for 7 years now. I mean, Jason, when I first met you, I had a team in the USL PDL back then. It's now USL League 2, and then in 2017 we bought a franchise with a new ownership group in USL Championship. And, New Mexico, everyone kind of questioned whether it would work or not here. Not a lot of things, not a lot of hugely positive things have come out of our state as of late. Yeah, we're known for Breaking Bad a lot of the times, but that might not. It's funny to talk about, but it's not the most positive thing. But New Mexico is a beautiful place. I think the most beautiful place about New Mexico is our people, and our people have rallied around this team, adopted it as its own. And this thing doesn't work without them. And so this is built by New Mexicans for New Mexicans. And here we are in year 7. We've won 5 out of our last 7 games in all competitions. Had a nice win against a really good Union Omaha team in the Jägermeister Cup this weekend, and flying high right now. I think our goalkeeper Alex Temback hasn't allowed a goal in almost 500 minutes. It's a really good streak we're on.
That's pretty impressive. A great start to the season. Congrats on the hot start. And it's timely. You mentioned the Jägermeister Cup. What do you think of that introduction to the calendar?
Again, I'm being in English and growing up in the football pyramid in England. I think it's awesome to see a League Cup come to light. And the USL, the league, has worked really hard over the years to make this thing work. I mean, the Jägermeister Cup, for those who don't know, last year was just for USL League One. Now they've added USL League One and USL Championship. So while Open Cup is all leagues, this is something that happens amongst USL leagues. And then once we add that first division, there'll be 3 leagues that'll be in the League Cup. So loving the competition, and obviously it feels good after winning the first game.
Albuquerque as a place. I mean, again, you mentioned Breaking Bad. I mean, before that, Bugs Bunny was the only reference I got from for Albuquerque. I actually have visited New Mexico a couple of times. I had cousins who lived in New Mexico for a while, but give us a sense of the soccer vibes in Albuquerque and New Mexico as a whole, Rob, because you said people maybe didn't know if this was going to work, but if you got soccer fans, or you can convince people to be soccer fans, you could be successful.
Yeah, so I think there's 2 prongs to that answer. The soccer vibes are very vibrant. I watched Liverpool win the league yesterday at our Liverpool supporters club with about 200 people. And that's just for Liverpool, right? And so there's a Tottenham bar, there's a Man United bar, which we don't really pay attention to. There's a few other teams have got presence. City doesn't really have a presence here, so that's kind of comical as well. But you've got this Premier League culture. But then once we built New Mexico United, it brought in people from all folds of life, right? And that's one thing people ask us all the time. Like, we've averaged 10,000 fans a game for going into our 7th year now. Wow. How do we do it? It's not all soccer fans that are coming to the games. We're introducing people to the game every single week. I mean, we estimate 3,000 to 4,000 of those fans every week it's their first time at a professional soccer game. And so when you look at what the USL has done for the ecosystem as a whole in the United States, we're introducing people to our beautiful sport every single week. And they get there. Our match day atmosphere is electric. You guys have got to come to a game. The invite's always open. I'll roll out the black and yellow carpet for you. Come on out. It's a palpable electricity that you really can't get anywhere else. I think it's truly unique to New Mexico, and you can feel the pride of New Mexicans shining through every Saturday night. So it's a beautiful thing.
That's pretty incredible attendance numbers, and that estimation of having that many first timers there. I saw in your notes that you sent over that you guys have 4,000 season ticket holders, which is an incredible number. So you're 7 years in. Which year was the biggest jump to where you are now, or was it getting 10,000 from the start?
Yeah, I mean, the first year we were averaging 12,000, and so that first year was gangbusters. It was we'd set a goal in the office. We have a sales bell where every time a sales rep sold a season ticket. A lot of people don't realize lower level soccer, we're small businesses, right? I have a front office that support me and do the hard work of 30 people. And then we've got a lot of other people around doing things. And on a game day, there's 400 people in the stadium making it go. But yeah, it's that first year was enormous. And then we hit COVID. We were the only pro soccer team in the world in 2020 to not play a home game in our home market. Our state's restrictions were so tight, we had to play all the games on the road. And remarkably, we got to rent Colorado Springs Stadium. They were nice enough to lend it to us for one game. That was our home game. And 1,000 New Mexicans drove the 5 hours to Colorado Springs to be at that home game during COVID. And then we bounced out of COVID with limited restrictions. So then we never quite caught up the numbers from year one. And we were no longer the new shiny object in town, right? But It's continued to stay consistent with the 6-year average. We had a little lower on Saturday, we had 9,500, I believe, on Saturday. But 2 weeks before that, we had close to 11. So it all balances out at around 10,000 a game.
And you've been consistently successful on the field, which is obviously a part of this story, Ron. So how does this team manage to be, good enough to be in the playoffs and be making things exciting for fans that way? Because if you're the new shiny object and you don't win, people will drift away.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. 6 out of 7 years we've been in the playoffs. It comes down to coaching, and it comes down to and our sporting director now, who's in full time. So Troy Lesane was the club's first ever head coach. He's now the head coach of DC United. We had Zach Prince right after him, who is now his assistant coach. Eric Quill was our head coach last year. He's now the head coach at FC Dallas. We seem to be the place to go if you want to get coached in the MLS. Right now, Dennis Sanchez is our new head coach. But kind of behind the scenes, pulling the strings, is Itamar Kynan, who's our sporting director. Does a phenomenal job of playing almost the Moneyball game of soccer and finding the right players to fit our system that not necessarily everyone's ranting and raving about. So when we do our player announcements, fans are like, I'm not sure if I've heard of this person yet, but they come in and they fit right into that system. And I think that's the way that football should be played. I mean, we look at our favorite team, Rob, right? And that's what Liverpool does. Like, I can't wait to see Caicedo give a guard of honor to Endo in a couple of weeks when we go down to Chelsea and play down there. So
yeah, that will definitely be a moment to savor indeed. There has been a number of big announcements in USL this year so far. A Division 1, a league being established, and then on top of that, promotion and relegation being thrown into the mix was voted and approved. So seemingly that's going to happen. So where does New Mexico fit? Is New Mexico a first division team right out the gate?
I think we are. I think the track record speaks for itself. I think you look at our fandom, you look at our success on and off the pitch. We have a retail store down in the Nob Hill area of Albuquerque. Most soccer teams don't have that. So we are a year-round business, 360 days a year. That store is open. We do events down there. We attract new fans every single day that just walk by, come in the retail store. We've created a movement, and I don't mean to sound cocky. I think we're just very confident in what we've built, what we're continuing to build. And ultimately, as you guys probably know, we do play in a baseball stadium right now, and we're moving diligently. I'm sure that's a question that's coming. Moving diligently towards building our own privately funded stadium in the next couple of years here, once we can just get past the last hurdle in the courts.
Well, Ron, I think that's the question when we talk American soccer, right? It was the question for MLS for a very long time, and it still is in a couple of cities, but largely MLS has solved it, and they've built a bunch of soccer stadiums. And my theory is, of course, and it's just not reinventing anything, but my theory is once you get your own place and people identify that with your club, your roots are in the ground and you're not going anywhere. And it feels like something people want to support. People see Yankee Stadium and they know next year there's going to be a Yankees team that they can follow. So where is that process? And what does the concept look like for New Mexico United when it comes to building a proper soccer stadium?
Yeah, sure. And as I'm talking, I don't know if you guys have any pictures you could show of it, or if you wanted me to, I can. But it's been a journey since 2021 was when we started this journey on trying to build that stadium right after COVID. There was a bond put on the ballot here in Albuquerque, and unfortunately, the voters said they did not want to fund a publicly funded stadium. So when we realized that we had to go private, so for the last 2 years, we've been on this journey, and there's laws and policies in place to protect citizens that might feel like building something might not be to their best benefit. So there are processes you have to go through, and that's just been a slow process for us. We have won all the appeals that have been done. I mean, through this process, I'll tell you guys, being the guy that's been kind of the face of the club trying to get this thing done, I was on the longest Zoom meeting of my life. It was an 8-hour Zoom meeting in one of these stadium meetings that was an appeal about some of the neighbors. It's really a couple dozen neighbors that don't want the stadium near them. But the stadium's going to be built in Balloon Fiesta Park, which is a really well-known place here. There's an international hot air balloon festival that comes to Albuquerque every year. Over 1 million visitors, representing dozens and dozens of countries, and it's a beautiful event. And people come to this 400-acre park to do this thing. But outside of that event, there's not a lot of big events that happen there. And the park, just the 400 acres, just kind of sits there. So what this will do, the stadium is going to be there, is going to activate that park, throughout the rest of the year, and we can host all kinds of cool events, not just soccer games. Of course, there's other things that can be held there too. But yeah, we've been on this journey now, like I said, for 4 years, and everyone says, I get asked 4 times a day, right? From fans, from corporate partners, from everyone in the media, like, when's it going to happen? I think the honest answer is we just don't know yet until the courts have said it's good to go. But we've won our appeals so far. Right now, it's basically the city is caught up with the neighborhood associations and some lawsuit stuff. I don't need to bore you with all that, but it will get built, and I'm hoping in the next couple of years.
We have a question in the chat from the Ultras. Who has been the traveling support that's done the most traveling to New Mexico?
The most traveling to New Mexico, in the early days, it was Phoenix and El Paso. I think it's probably still those two teams that are our biggest rivals. We'll be heading down to El Paso this weekend, actually. I think we'll have 250 fans driving to El Paso, which is a 4-hour drive, which in the United States is not very far. But if you look at that like in England or something, that's a long away day. But yeah, Phoenix and El Paso are the big ones. San Diego used to travel pretty well when the Loyal were around. They did really well. And I'll always kind of rave about our fan support. I go to a lot of away games. Our owner goes to just about all of them. There's never a game where there's not 25 or more New Mexico United fans. And so Rhode Island I went to, there was 25 fans. And New Mexicans have this pride about being New Mexican, and we feel like we represent the entire state really well. And so when I was in the Rhode Island game last year, there's people from Boston, from Connecticut, from Delaware, from Maryland that were expats from New Mexico that then come to see the team when it's near them. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome. I'm glad you named the club New Mexico United so that none of us have to spell Albuquerque on a regular basis.
Yeah.
I guess that was part of the research, right, Ron?
No, it's intentional though, because we're a big state by area. We're the 5th largest state in the union by area. That's how large the state is. But there's only 2 million people, right? And so it's very spread out. And so this is something that can bring everyone together. And I think one thing we've done really well is we meet people where they're at. And so we'll go to Clovis, which is 2.5 hours away. We'll go down to Carlsbad, which is 3.5 hours away, and do a free soccer clinic for kids through our foundation. We'll go up to Farmington, which is 3 hours away, and activate. And we have season ticket holders and all this. We have season ticket holders that are 3-4 hours away that come in every weekend. There's a home game. So it's pretty cool.
Your New Mexico United taking on the road El Paso Locomotive, your next game up. Is that a game fans should be excited for?
All the time. I mean, it's called the Derby del Camino Real. We were named by the USL as the best rivalry in the league a few years ago. Have a great relationship with El Paso. Our fan groups don't necessarily like each other too much, but they respect the rivalry. Last year we got down there and got the 3 points. We have a little corner section of the stadium that they give the away team with a little bit of a limited view, which is kind of a little gamesmanship, I think. But we love it. We go down there, stay at a hotel right by the stadium. El Paso's done a great job with their downtown. And so we stay in that hotel in their downtown. We're able to do a pregame party with a couple hundred people. And then we go over to the stadium. It's the way football should be, right, guys?
Got one more
Absolutely.
question from the chat from you, Ian, one of our members. Are there any clubs that you try to model New Mexico United after? Brighton and Brentford are trendy and obvious, but what can you say about what New Mexico United might have been kind of modeled after?
Great question. I've never been asked that one.
Don't say Liverpool. Don't say Liverpool.
Well, no, I'm not. I mean, obviously that's what drove my love for the game and what I think about the ideal, but I'm going to give a weird answer. I'm going to say, you know what? No one really. We're modeling the next best version of ourselves in New Mexico. And I think that's what we're trying to build. And, New Mexico is, like I said, it's a beautiful place. And we've given the state something to be super, super proud of with this club. We have unique partnerships like Meow Wolf, which no one had ever heard about 10 years ago. There's a little art startup in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Now they're in Los Angeles, going to New York. They're in Houston, Dallas. But it started in New Mexico. And all of our jersey sponsors are New Mexican companies, right? So we can do this with New Mexicans, and we are doing it, and we'll continue to do it.
So
Great.
New Mexico United uniting the state and doing some incredible collaborations by the seam of it, and then a stadium in the future. So onward and upward for New Mexico United, it would seem. Tell the folks that are watching that might be curious to learn more about your club where they should go.
Yeah, I mean, I think our marketing team does a great job on our social media channels. Check out our Instagram channel, New Mexico UTD is all of our handles, or NewMexicoUTD.com. We've got great merch if anyone wants to check it out. It's a great place to find it. And we need to get you guys some jerseys. Actually, I don't think you have any jerseys. So we'll
Do not.
So Ron Patel, president of New Mexico United, thank you so much for joining us and letting us know about the soccer district of Albuquerque, New Mexico, and the extra bonus of celebrating the team across the pond. Thank you so much. Viewers, thank you for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed yet, wait no longer. Hit the subscribe button and join the MK Ultras and join in. Priority commenting and access to videos for members. So don't forget about that. You can follow along on social media, X, Instagram, and Blue Sky. Write us an email, morningkickaround@gmail.com. You can also support on coffee.com/morningkickaround and find us as a podcast, Morning Kick Around on your favorite audio platform. All right, we're going to take a quick break, catch our breath, and come right back with one more segment before we wrap up the day here on Morning Kick Around. All right, hot topic of the day here on Monday, April 28th. I'm Robert. He's Jason. Across the pond, Liverpool won the English Premier League. It means a lot to me personally. I have a connection there. We'll dig into that in a little bit. But the question of the segment, should Americans adopt foreign teams? Jason.
Do I have to say yes or no right now? Is that what we're going to do this? I have to make a
statement? I know we're in different places here, so I wanted to get your point before if I pour my my bleeding heart story out. I want to hear your
okay.
side.
We just had Ron Patel, born a mile from Anfield. I would never question Ron Patel's Liverpool fandom when he says something like, "I was born a mile from Anfield." Rob, you are English, right? You are, in addition to being American.
Well, I'm a member or a citizen of both countries, born on that side of the pond, introduced to Liverpool by my grandfather as a 4 or 5-year-old, showing me the tapes of the glory days, indoctrinated there, lived during in the 90s over there during Liverpool's decline, essentially, but. It was a tearful one because it reminded me a lot of my grandfather. A lot of memories of seeing him showing me those tapes, and there is a connection, I guess. Long story short, there's a connection.
Of course, you wait long because it's emotional for you. I get it, but that's that I would never question, right? I would never question your connection to Liverpool through your grandfather, Ron's through where he was born, and this applies to Americans who are not also English, right? When it comes to our big sports here. Right, I'm a Denver Broncos fan. I've never lived in Denver, but my parents are both from Denver, and my grandfather had me on his knee talking about the Broncos. He was a season ticket holder the year they started in the AFL. Go look at the history. They were terrible. So that man committed to a terrible, terrible football team, and then I had to be a fan of that team when I figured out what football was. I had no choice, right? I don't think of it as a choice. It was given to me. It was a gift that was handed down to me, just like your Liverpool fandom is handed down for me. And I think that is the purest form of sports fandom. And I think we could easily turn it into it's the only legitimate form of sports fandom. If you want to go into that direction, you could make that argument, right? And my story as a sports fan, and then subsequently as a broadcaster and a writer and somebody who works in sports, my attitude used to be very judgmental. I used to say things like
you were judgmental and gatekeep about something. You get out of town.
Oh, come on. I generally try not to be, but that's the thing. I was somebody who would judge you if you said, "Oh, I'm a fan of the San Francisco 49ers." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, well, you were in Northern Virginia. Why are you a fan of the San Francisco 49ers?" And "Oh, well, I like Joe Montana." "Oh yeah, you like Joe Montana? You like Jerry Rice?
They're good.
You like Ronnie Lott? Okay, good for you. What, you liked winning Super Bowls. Right, that's why you're a Niners fan. Now, this obviously sets me in time that I'm saying Niners, but the Bulls of the 90s, right? So many young kids became Bulls fans because the Bulls were winning. And I guess if you're a kid and you do it and you adopt a team because it's fun to win, it's a little less of a problem for old Jason than if it's like, I'm just gonna attach myself to the winningest team, right? The English have words for these things, right?
A glory supporter. And when I moved to England in the mid 90s, the first year I was there, Blackburn Rovers won the Premier League. And I remember people were literally militantly like, if you see a Blackburn supporter, let's beat him. He's a glory supporter, because there was nobody outside of Blackburn that was a Blackburn supporter.
Yeah. You're a glory hunter, or we would say a fair weather fan here in the U.S. When people change teams, like, "Oh, you're only a fan of that team while they're winning." You were a fan of the Yankees of the 90s, but as soon as they stopped winning, you're not a Yankees fan anymore. You were a fan of the Cowboys in the 90s. As soon as they stopped winning, you're not a Cowboys fan anymore. And this kind of leads into our discussion about how we choose our teams if we are not English, born in Liverpool, whatever it might be. I don't have any connection to the old country, right? I don't have any family I can point to and say they came over and they're from here. And obviously like that's even that is like, oh, well, my great-grandfather came from Glasgow, or my great-grandfather came from Liverpool. My great-grandfather left Portsmouth or whatever it was, or London, lived in. I suppose you could choose something because of those things. If you had any sense of who your great-grandfather might have supported. I don't have that. So when it came to foreign clubs, I never felt a tug. Nothing was gifted to me. Nothing was handed down from my grandfather. Nothing was birthright. It was only, well, if I decide to support a team, I have to make a choice. And that felt wrong because I had already judged the 49ers fans, and I had already judged the Bulls fans, and I already judged the Yankees fans. Again, you can also be a legitimate Bulls fan, Niners fan, or Yankees fan. I might hate you for that, or sports hate you, but I would get it if you're from New York, you're from San Francisco, whatever it is. So I didn't know how I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know how, Rob, to become a fan of a team without having some reason that felt legitimate to me. And again, this is also kind of a malleable thing, and we turn it to whatever purposes it serves for us. Now, I ultimately picked Fulham. I picked Fulham. And I picked Fulham for a couple reasons. Number one, Fulham has an American kind of flavor to it. There's an American owner, but beyond that, there are lots of Americans who played for Fulham. Fulham was a home for American players when we didn't have a lot of players in England. And so it felt kind of nice to jump on board that. But I also was actively avoiding glory hunting.
You've done that, Jason.
I actively chose a team that I knew I would not be accused of only picking that team because of winning. But now I'm in a box. Right now I'm stuck in a box of my own making. And it's like, well, maybe Fulham never wins a trophy while I'm a fan. And that's a tough pill to swallow. So when we talk about people choosing teams, I can't say no, don't pick one. I've just done it. But I guess it is that thing of, does it feel the way sports is supposed to feel? And if you don't have any other option, like it's either be a general soccer fan and don't pick a team, or pick a team and be accused of doing it for the quote unquote wrong reasons. I guess a lot of people would rather pick a team because then you actively feel connected to the game in a way you can't if you're just like, well, I watch the Premier League every weekend and whatever's on.
Well, fandom and adopting a team is a personal thing. And the point that I'm glad you made was being malleable, because like I said, I was indoctrinated in Liverpool fandom by my grandfather, showed me all the tapes of the glory days when we visited when I was very young. And when I lived there, I saw Liverpool win the Coca-Cola Cup. And that seemed like a big deal at the time. As an 8-year-old, the League Cup seemed like a huge deal because that was the only thing I'd ever seen, live winning. But so go years and years and years, obviously. And then, so when Liverpool won yesterday, I was with my dad, and then we were kind of basking in the afterglow of it. And we kind of were rehashing all the painful moments leading to this surprise moment of almost relief and joy. Vincent Kompany hit a rocket shot to secure the title in 18 or 19 when Liverpool were 98 points or something that year. And then obviously the Gerrard slip, and then there was a couple of occasions where just brutally, getting second place when it seemed like this was the year. And then it finally happened when almost no one was expecting it. But the point of being malleable, this Liverpool has been my team unquestionably my whole life. But when a local team started in my backyard, that loyalty almost instantly after the first game became divided. So I think being able to be malleable and open, especially in the days we're living in where teams are popping up left and right, professional clubs are filling in, being malleable. So I am a Liverpool guy, but my local team has almost surpassed that.
This is something that I think is fascinating in this moment, right? And we live in a connected world where if I pay a little bit of money a month, I can watch a foreign club of my choosing that I have attached myself to. I can watch every game. I can choose to do that, right? I can watch Fulham every weekend if I want to watch Fulham. I can watch. I went to Spain last year, bought an Atleti shirt, said, "Oh, I'm going to follow Atleti." I'm not saying the same way connected to Atleti that I am to Fulham. I'll admit to that, but it's still it's cool if Atleti wins because I felt some sort of connection to Atleti. I could choose to watch those games. this was not something anybody could do 30 years ago.
Right.
This is not something anybody, you might say like, oh, I want to be a fan of some team overseas, but you wouldn't be able to follow them this way. The people who were fans of foreign clubs back then were expats or people like you who have a connection through family. And I was a Liverpool fan in the night. And like you said, like it took extra effort to go and see things happening and I don't know, that part of it cheapens the relationship a little bit. Even as I acknowledge I engage with it myself, it's different. I mean, for me, I want to go to London. I want to see Fulham play at Craven Cottage. I do. But I can remember being a kid being so desperate to get to Mile High Stadium. Like it was my Mecca, right? It was the place I had to go. I had to visit, or I wouldn't feel like a real fan. And I don't know that that's the way people think of sports fandom anymore, Rob. You can be very removed. And it leads to conversations about whether or not leagues should play meaningful matches in other countries, right? I've been on the radio before, and I don't like that. I don't like that idea. I don't like La Liga thinking about playing games in America that count towards La Liga standings. I don't like Serie A trying to do this. I don't think you should hurt the fans locally to serve fans abroad. That's just the way I feel about this, because I think the heart and soul of sports is the local community around the club. And I had people call up the radio show and say, no, I'm a fan as much as they are. I want to see the team here. Bring the team here. Why should I have to suffer as a fan? And I'm like, wait a second, this feels very wrong to me. The team was always based there. When you chose to support them, you knew where they play their games. So if you want to be a fan, get your plane ticket, buy your seats, and go see them play. If you want to feel connected that way, don't ask the game to come to you. You have to go to the game.
Yeah, I'll be fair. I mean, as much fun as yesterday was and as good as it felt, I did feel a little detached. I mean, I'm thousands of miles away from Liverpool and everyone's supporting there. And I mean, they are partying and celebrating in the neighborhood, in and around it, and to ask to take that away from that neighborhood where they are is a bit rich. To your point there, Jason. But hey, number 20. Should we move on? But should continue the conversation in the chat. I think we're done here for the day. But continue the conversation in the chat. Should Americans adopt foreign teams?
Yeah, I would like to put a little spin on this, right? And again, we're opening a question. We're not accusing people who choose clubs in foreign leagues of being wrong about it, right? And I have stopped being that judgy guy, because I think you got to come to the game whatever way you can, especially our sport, especially soccer, because of the way we think about it in the United States. It's much tougher to kind of get to that place. There aren't families handing down fandom for clubs. Even MLS clubs, we're talking about maybe a second generation getting indoctrinated now. We're still very early in that process. Your grandfather cannot say, well, I went to Galaxy games back then. That doesn't exist. That's not a thing.
Not yet.
We kind of have to be, it can't be as organic. It's just impossible for it to be as organic. So I don't want to be overly judgy, but I guess I want to know if people feel like their connection to a foreign club, if they don't have something like Rob's family to bring them to it, can feel as legitimate, as romantic, as real as the fandom you might have for the football team from wherever you are, the baseball team, the basketball team, whatever it might be. I'm curious about that.
Yeah, I hope those, even though if you support someone overseas with the American landscape filling out and adding more teams, hopefully your heart is still open to adopt that local team if one, is created in your area. But I think that does it for our live show today. If you haven't hit subscribe yet, do so now. Then tell your friends and family to follow suit. This show gets richer. YouTube gives us more possibilities, spreads the word more with more subscribers and more views, more comments. Chat's been great today. Thank you guys for that. There's memberships now for Morning Kickaround. Join the MK Ultras. You can join that allows you access to the Discord, priority commenting, early access to the videos, badges, stickers, and many more benefits. You can follow along on social media at mkickaround on X, Instagram, and Blue Sky. Write us a note, morningkickaround@gmail.com. We've gotten a few good ones. Need to reply to those, but thank you for writing in those notes.
It's the only club I care about, Rob. I just want to throw this in. This is where my heart and soul lies. Master Shake Football Club.
Hey, is Rumham FC still a club? I want to see a Rumham FC versus the Shake Shack there.
Do you know Aquatine Hunger Force? Are you
Oh
aware
yeah,
of what that is?
my
Okay,
dad
just
owns a
making sure.
dealership. This is my favorite episode. That's my
Glad
by
we're on
far
board.
my favorite part of that show. But yeah, final note, if you want us as a podcast, search Morning Kick Around on your favorite audio platform. We talked about it at the top. The next couple of shows will be a little different. Jason and I are on the road for different reasons. He's going to have more fun than I am, but we will have some content on Wednesday and Friday. Regardless, I may not be the live show as you're used to, but there will be content here on the Morning Kick Around YouTube channel. So until the next time we are together, everybody, please enjoy your soccer.